All right. Are we ready? Yep. Everybody ready? Ready? Good evening and welcome to the December 3rd, 2019 Lawrence City Commission meeting. We will start with the approval of our agenda. The City Commission reserves the right to amend, supplement, and reorder the agenda during the meeting. Are there any changes to the meeting agenda?
I would request that we move the executive session until after we review the calendar items as the last item on the agenda.
Okay. It's a motion.
Second.
Second, I got a motion by Commissioner Nanda, second by Commissioner Herbert. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, on to the consent agenda. All matters listed below on the consent agenda are considered under one motion and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on those items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Members of the public wishing to speak to an item that has been pulled off the consent agenda will be limited to 3 minutes for their comments. Are there any commissioners that would like to have anything pulled from the consent agenda? Are there any members of the public that would like to have something pulled from the consent agenda for further discussion? Okay, do I have a motion?
Go ahead, Matthew.
I would move approval of the consent agenda, including all claims.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Herbert, a second by Commissioner Nanda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. So we'll move to item D, which is our public comment period. The public is allowed to speak to any items or issues except those scheduled on the consent agenda or the regular agenda portions of the agenda, or after first being recognized by the mayor. Each person will be limited to 3 minutes for public comment. As a general practice, the commission will not discuss or debate these items, nor will the commission make decision on items presented during this time. Rather, they will refer the items to staff for follow-up, if necessary. Individuals are asked to come to this microphone, sign in, and state their name and address. Speakers should address all comments and questions directly to the commission. Do we have any general public comments? One up. Thank you.
My name is Ron Wilson. And Ms. Larson, you just blew my first page when you said you had no information.
Okay.
But I would still like to impress upon the commission, the mayor, the person that was supposed to provide you with information, and anybody within earshot. And I will ask again and again and again. I think I've been here 3 or 4 times already. How would you respond if I said I wanted to rape your wife, your husband, 12-year-old son or daughter, or one of your grandparents? How would the public in this room, you commissioners, and others respond to the vulgar, hateful, foul language that a sexual pervert would use to describe his sex act threat? How would you respond if you reported this hateful sexual threat to the police, then the commissioning panel, and nothing is done? How would you respond if the chief of police tried to get you to change your statement when you requested an investigation? How would you explain your actions to the children or family? And this person that voiced the threat was a policeman, sworn to uphold our laws, be honorable, and all that other stuff. Does ignoring a hate crime, covering up a hate crime, make you part of that hate crime? I think I can answer that question for everyone here. The answer is a legal, resounding, and very loud yes, just like if you drive the car in a bank holdup and someone gets killed. Police used to be peace officers. Now they're law enforcement officers, part-time. Speed laws and drug laws are ignored with no penalty. Some of the police officers do not uphold their responsibilities and become bullies. They're people, but we're all held accountable for our decisions, right or wrong. Your decisions determine what kind of a person you are, be it a civilian, law, politician, religious person that decides to follow or not follow the ethical, moral, legal laws or the public trust. 2 questions and 1 comment, or 1 request. Will I be alive to see Christmas? I gave a couple pieces of paper to the city clerk. And I don't know if you have listened to the news about a upcoming NATO meeting.
Mr. Wilson, that's 3 minutes.
I am at 3 minutes?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'd like to attend that meeting, and I hope that my wife dies first by the bullet, and I don't want to see them beat the hell out of me and kill me. Even though she has Alzheimer's, she knows what the hell's going on.
So is there any other general public comment that's not related to any items on our regular agenda or our consent agenda?
A few weeks ago, a group of short-term rental property owners and advocates held a riot here at a city commission meeting. And of course, since these non-resident property owners are basically owners of the city commission and the city government, nothing was done to stop the affair. There was applause, and then some of the members went up and presented themselves to the commission, and all the commission is just all full of themselves over this. These short-term property rentals are nothing more than motels. And so we're going to have them infiltrated throughout the community, and we won't know whether your next door neighbor is running a motel or what, because that's what they are. And of course, the other thing is that we need an accountability from the city commission that sits in January of who donated to their campaigns. You can see that on the county records, but we need to know who of those donors are owners of rental properties in the city, and properties that aren't occupied by residents. So we have, I think, something like over half of the properties, residential properties in this town are owned by landlords. And we know that there's not going to be any change because the landlords basically tell the city government what to do. The new director of planning and development services will be chosen by the landlords and developers. So that's the way it goes. It's bad now, but it's only going to get worse because we don't have a city commission who will stand up for people like me, who are obnoxious people like me, who are own their own properties and live in them and try to have a neighborhood that is, somewhat civil and somewhat livable. And the final point is transparency. We need to know who these donors are who gave to the city commission candidates and who own these residential properties for transparency. Now, I know transparency is something that the city commission finds abhorrent, and they don't want you don't want transparency, anything but.
Any other general public comment?
Frank Jansen, 1101 Vermont. I met Mike Amix going out. I said, aren't you going to the meeting? He said, no, he has his other job to do.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Chris Flowers, and I just want to give a preview of what I hope the City Commission will be working on in the next term. I hope the City Commission tackles criminal justice reform at a local level. We need less rules and more freedom. The easiest way to deal with jail overcrowding is to quit putting people in there for victimless crimes. And the other thing I hope the City Commission tackles is letting renters count in protest petitions and other areas where property owners get a vote. I think renters should get better representation in this town. Thank you.
Chris. Any other general public comment? Okay. Bringing up back up here. We'll move on to item E, which is our regular agenda items. And as we all know, tonight is the night that we elect a new mayor, and we also will be saying goodbye to two of our long-term commissioners here. So we're going to start this out by receiving comments from the City Commission. If anybody would like to start that?
Sure, I'll begin. Thanks. I just want to begin, in case in all of the celebration that ensues, I miss anyone, but I do want to thank the city staff that have worked for the last 5 years to help us achieve what we've achieved, and helped dig holes where we've just dug ourselves in and tried to achieve things. And I think one of the things that gets lost is that there's a lot of people who work for Lawrence that they don't sit up here and they don't get put on camera by Kurt, but they do an amazing amount of work that too often is underappreciated. What happens a lot is people show up to City Commission meetings upset. Something has gone wrong, or something they believe is in the process of going wrong. And so they show up to let their voice be heard. And so what ends up happening is a lot of negativity is directed at city staff. Sometimes that's our fault up here. There are evenings where things are not going the way that we wish they would go, and oftentimes the bus drives right over city staff and takes that off of our shoulders. And that's the easy way out, and it's unfortunate that it happens, but it happens every single Tuesday. So before I make any other comments, I do want to make sure that I thank everyone that has put in time and done the work that they have done without any gratitude, and I want to make sure you receive that gratitude tonight. So thank you very much for that. Thanksgiving weekend of 2014, I made the decision to step up and throw my name into the ring for the Lawrence City Commission. And since that time, hardly a day has gone by that I haven't given some thought to public safety, infrastructure, general needs of the community. And over the course of my 2 terms on the City Commission, I've probably taken 1,000 votes, maybe thousands of votes. Those votes have probably left me laying awake at night hundreds of times, overthinking the consequences of those votes. There have been nights where we have had 4-to-1 votes and I've been on the one end, and you go home and you think about it all week. And you think, what could I have done to get a 3rd vote? When in reality, you're thinking, what could I have done to get a 2nd vote? Maybe I am the crazy one, right? But throughout the course of those 5 years, I've tried to inject a little bit of levity into the affairs of this body. I sometimes think that that's very needed when we deal with these tense moments. But I want to be very clear as I exit the stage tonight that though I injected levity into some of my comments throughout my time here, that I've taken my votes very seriously. I've taken my responsibility very seriously. I do want to make sure I acknowledge the fact that behind nearly every issue we deal with, no matter how small it seemed on paper, there was a passionate group of citizens who felt very strongly about their side, who had taken time out of their day to come down here and tell us about it. And I remember doing that myself as a private citizen. It's been a long time since I've had to do that, but I clearly remember how intimidating it is to stand at the podium and to look up on an elevated commission. And I can still remember how much it burns when you feel as though your position is not taken seriously. It was but 6 years ago that I stood right here and listened as a city commissioner told me that he couldn't take people like me seriously following my public comments. So what I hope I leave you with tonight is that I sincerely hope that those who have come and spoken before this commission leave knowing that I respect their courage for speaking and that I attempt to honor their words as best as possible, even when I've disagreed with their position. There is a difference between a bad idea and a bad person, and understanding that premise is fundamental to this job. And that exact idea is what I hope I leave you with tonight, that as I have matured in my tenure here, I have learned that though we often differ wildly in our political ideology, at our core, I believe us to be very similar. In local politics, the latter is often forgotten through the angry lens of the former. But if we are to be successful as we drive forward as a community and move the needle in a positive direction, we have to remember and talk about our similarities as we debate our differences. We have to acknowledge that at 6 East 6th Street, civility is the price of admission. I don't want that to be lost in any wandering oratory tonight, but I had intended to end it there. But I can't help but see a perfectly shining example of that tonight right here in the audience. So I want to take just one more minute, I promise. It won't take very long. This is my last chance to have more than 3 minutes, and if I got, I'm going to use it. I want to tell you a little personal story about my friend Dan Dannenberg. He's a familiar face here on a Tuesday night, and I must confess that I don't think he likes me. In my almost 5 years up here, his public comments have been directed at me, accusing me of organized criminal activity, attacking the way I dress. He one time said that I like to practice guerrilla warfare upon neighborhoods. So on face value, one might think that perhaps we aren't best friends. But before I digress in the story, there's two things you need to know about me off the commission. The two things I'm most passionate about, live music and baseball. So back into the story here. A couple years ago, my wife and I took a date night, and we went on Mass Street. There was a place called Five Bar, rest in peace. It was located inside Ingredient, also rest in peace. And they used to host live jazz music on a Friday night. And man, the turnout there was great. And as my wife and I entered Five Bar, we came to see this wonderful turnout. There were exactly 2 seats left in the room. So I planted myself in the very last seat that was there, turned to my left, and there's Dan Dannenberg. In spite of all of our differences, Dan loves live music just like me. But it gets better. The very next morning, I took my daughter to Hoagland Ballpark to see the KU baseball team play. You see, I love baseball. My young daughter loves Baby J. It's a win-win, right? I can pretend to be a really good dad when really I'm just there to watch baseball. So as the game got underway, I began to hear a voice I recognized, alternating between cheering on the Hawks and hurling insults at the visiting team. Sadly, unlike Five Bar, KU baseball is not very well attended, and so it's not particularly difficult to pick out a single voice in the crowd. And this voice caught my attention differently than any other voice. The heckling was of such a unique nomenclature. I knew it from somewhere, but lacking any context, I could not place it. So I spun around in my seat, and there he sat, Dan Dannenberg. You see, as it turns out, in spite of all of our differences, Dan loves baseball too. In local politics, in spite of our differences, we are so very similar. So tonight, I dedicate this farewell address to you, Dan. And one last time I get to utter the words, thanks, Dan. Thank you to those who have supported me. May your tomorrows be better than your yesterdays.
I'm going to do something a little different.
You're not going to thank Dan?
Thanks, Dan. Mandy, bring her up here. One of my favorite people in the whole world. Come around here, Frankie. Frankie's been here for all my big moments. I will get this one. It's a big one, isn't it? I'm gonna pick it up. I'm gonna look at my phone. All right. This is Frankie. This is not my child. I don't have children. I never wanted children. Frankie's the close enough to have children. And when I have had my bigger moments, she's always been here with the giant gavel. I'm gonna repost that video. That was adorable. When you were like 2, I don't remember. I don't know if you remember that. But I think what's important to remember is there's a lot that I'm proud about in 4 years and 8 months that we've been here. And one of the biggest one is that we're the first female majority up here. You know, I was the first female, then we got Lisa, then we got Jennifer, now we're gonna have Courtney, it's still gonna be a female majority. What more could I leave? I mean, truthfully. So this is something we can do. Forget the whole Facebook, you know, activism that drives me crazy. I try and stay off of Facebook nowadays. It's meaningless, but doing something like this and really putting a target on your back, but actually standing up for what you believe in, even if it's just wanting to throw peas on the floor and not clean it up and just be kind of a terror. That's what she believes in at the time, and that's what she does. And to me, that's what I did when I ran, is I felt very, very strongly that what was going on with the past city commissioners, I was just incredibly unhappy. And one of the more satisfying things that I've seen is this past election, there wasn't that anger. There wasn't 16 people running because they were so angry. You know, there were 6 people, didn't even have a primary. And to me, that's one of the more satisfactory things that we've come up with here, in my opinion. I think people are happy with the changes that we've done, and let's do more. But I guess not with me here. But like I said, I'm gonna go find Mike Tuesday nights, and we're gonna yell at TV. All of you guys.
Can't wait.
So thank you. You wanna sit up here with me more? Okay. We're gonna watch them be So we're gonna watch them be mayor now.
Well, as this term comes to an end, there are many people for me to thank. Thank you to the citizens of Lawrence for providing me with the opportunity that you have. It's been an honor and a privilege to work with you, to represent you, and to serve you. Thank you to city staff for all the work that you've done. You ensure the safety and viability of our community, and I appreciate your efforts in all the many ways that you serve city residents. A special thank you to Diane Stoddard, to Tom Marcus and Craig Owens. Diane served as interim city manager, then Tom served as city manager for 3 years, and Craig joined us in July. While you are 3 very different people, you have each shown me wisdom and kindness, for which I'm very grateful. Thank you to my fellow commissioners, Mike, Leslie, Matthew, Lisa, and Jennifer. We don't get anything done on our own. It's a team effort. I'd especially like to thank Mike, and I thanked him when he was there earlier tonight, for his leadership during 2015. I'll always think of that year as the year of Mike and the miracles. Matthew and Lisa, thank you for advocating for priority-based budgeting. I was skeptical, you may remember that, but you convinced
Got
me,
me on that one.
probably because you were right. Priority-based budgeting will benefit Lawrence for many years to come. And Leslie, you can rightfully be proud of serving on the first majority female city commission. That's a wonderful thing. And last, thank you to my friends and my family. I so appreciate your friendship, your love, and your support. Thanks.
I just wanted to say thank you to Leslie for always bringing a unique perspective to the table. You are not afraid to flip the script and throw your peas on the floor. I definitely appreciate your passion. And Matthew, I think that you've been an excellent verbal sparring partner. I've appreciated the dialogue genuinely that you've provided on the dais. I appreciate the Socratic approach that you take to that, and I will definitely miss your contributions to that dialogue, so thank you. Stuart, I'll save mine for you and you later.
Again, Matthew and Leslie, I want to thank you both for what you have added to this commission. I know, Matthew, you've always had concerns about being a 4-1 vote, but looking back, there was a lot of those 3-2 votes too every once in a while. So and I was there with you on many of those. So just so you know, and Leslie, don't even know what to say. You've got a unique perspective, and I love it. And it also frustrates the heck out of me. But I do love it. And thank you for your service to our community, both of you. Thank you. All right, so we will now move on to having the city clerk conduct the swearing-in of our newly elected city commissioners, Brad Finkeldye and Courtney Shipley. Please come up. And Stuart. Sorry, Stuart.
Go get him, Stuart.
It's not too late to back out, guys. Brad, it's not too late to back out. Okay.
Okay, if you'll please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Brad Finkeldye,
Do solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm
solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and faithfully discharge the duties of City Commissioner
and faithfully discharge the duties of City Commissioner
for the City of Lawrence, Kansas,
for the City of Lawrence, Kansas,
during the term for which I was elected,
during the term for which I was elected,
and this I do under the pains and penalties of perjury.
and this I do under the pains and penalties of perjury.
Congratulations.
Okay, so now, So now I have a couple of items for Leslie and Matthew before they step down. A little Christmas shopping early.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That one?
Got it? It's
Heavy,
heavy.
huh? Thank you, Lisa. Oh, nice. Shall we go?
All right, so we'll now have the new commission seated. Come on up.
You got the box. You gotta bring the box.
Good luck, sir.
Is it yours? Mm-hmm. Bye, Stuart. Bye, Jennifer. What? I love you a lot,
Oh, thanks.
There you go. Okay, everybody know who they are? You got your name tags?
No, I think they're in wrong places, but we'll change them after
That's
that.
okay. This will work.
Getting ahead of ourselves here.
Brad's over here. For right now. They'll move around again here in a little bit.
We'll switch it up.
All right. Okay, so now we will move on to conducting the election of the mayor. Do I have any nominations for the mayor?
I would nominate Jennifer Nanda for mayor.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Finkeldine, a second by Commissioner Shipley. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Jennifer Nanda is our new mayor for 2020. Okay, now we'll conduct the election for the vice mayor. Do I have a nomination for vice mayor?
I nominate Brad Finkeldine.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Nanda, second by Commissioner Boley. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Brad, you are our new vice mayor. Okay, so we will now officially switch our chairs to where we're supposed to be. We need
Mayor, before we do that, I would like to present you with our plaque for outstanding leadership as the mayor of Lawrence.
Thank you. Courtney, you'll stay right there.
I'm staying, okay.
Yeah, you're staying.
And your computer is on, you just need to flip up. Okay, I think we are prepared for comments from the outgoing mayor and the incoming mayor at this point.
All right, I'll go ahead and start. Okay,
Please.
Thank you. So as the outgoing mayor, I put together just a few comments about some of our accomplishments for the year. You know, it's been an honor to be here tonight and to serve all the residents of Lawrence. I want to take this opportunity to dedicate this State of the City address to all of our city employees, because our accomplishments are a true reflection of your commitment and dedication to public service and your constant effort to make Lawrence safe, and I believe to be the best place to live in the Midwest. They reflect your hard work, your acceptance of the often difficult challenges we face every day, and your strong sense of community pride. I will always believe that public service is a truly noble cause, and your work exemplifies this. Thank you to all of our city employees. Thank you. I also want to thank my fellow commissioners Stuart Boley and Jennifer Nanda, and our outgoing commissioners Matthew and Leslie for your leadership this past year. And finally, I want to welcome our newest commissioners, Brad and Courtney. Welcome to the Lawrence City Commission. I will look forward to working with you as we all strive for a better Lawrence through the principles of good governance. I will now share with you some of our accomplishments and some of the challenges that I see going forward. So in January 2019, when I was sworn in as a mayor, I laid out 6 goals that I believed were important to accomplish this year. These included hiring a new city manager, making positive strides in our affordable housing crisis, completing our strategic plan and priority initiatives, passing Plan 2040, developing a positive local government relationships, and completing the downtown master plan. So our first goal was to hire a new city manager, which we did. We announced in April 2019 the hiring of Craig Owens. He started his position in July of 2019. Craig came to us with extensive experience in city management and ties to Lawrence through the Master of Public Administration program at Kansas University. He has a strong background in economic development, local government partnerships, and city infrastructure. Craig's first 5 months have proven to be a promising start in leading Lawrence. He has begun the process of building partnerships and is providing much-needed leadership and better understanding the needs of our core services. To date, I believe Craig's approach to management has been very thoughtful, very measured, and is reflective of our need for a long-range vision for our community. I look forward to continue to work with him over the coming years. Our second challenge was to address some of our affordable housing issues. affording housing, as you all know, continues to be a critical need for our community. Our goal was to develop and implement policies that will facilitate the development of sustainable, affordable housing and support services, and to generate funding opportunities that will leverage our revenues. We are also committed to reviewing our existing codes and zoning to find creative ways to increase the density and to eventually look at other tools and possible incentives for including affordable housing and development. So in June 2019, we began collecting the sales tax that was specifically allocated for use in our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Collections for the first 5 months have totaled a little over $343,000. This, coupled with other funds allocated in our capital improvement plan, bring the total available dollars for affordable housing to a little over $750,000. This is through October of 2019. In October 2019, we approved new zoning that accommodates affordable housing by allowing increased density on some residential lots. Known as double density, this should decrease the overall cost of lots and allow for smaller and more affordable homes to be built. In November 2019, we allocated $475,000 from our trust fund monies for the partial costs of constructing 42 newly built affordable rental properties for senior citizens and 17 newly built homes for ownership by low-income individuals and families and persons with disabilities that require accessible modifications to their homes. Senior citizens and persons with disabilities are some of our most vulnerable community members. These 59 housing opportunities will significantly add to our affordable housing stock. These two projects represent a total of $11.4 million of private investment into our community, and that adds to our tax base. Both are excellent examples of our ability to leverage our trust fund dollars through public and private partnerships. It is my belief that these type of partnerships are the primary way to successfully meet the affordable housing needs and to ultimately make a difference in the lives of our community members who need the most support. We must make a commitment to continue this path of success and to encourage the development of private and institutional investment funds and the use of other government funding such as the low-income housing tax credits that will further leverage our trust fund dollars. We must also commit to ensuring our affordable housing is scattered throughout our community. This has been a directive from every city commissioner that has set up here since 2015 when I was first appointed to the commission. This is a goal that has not been fully realized. To ensure our trust fund dollars are equitably distributed throughout our community, we must have affordable housing opportunities across all of our community. Now, I realize that our affordable housing program is very young, and it will take time to evolve. However, it is my hope that the recent zoning changes, along with leadership from our Affordable Housing Advisory Board and our development community, coupled with the recent successes, will be enough to change this dynamic. Now on to Goal 3, which is to complete our strategic plan and our priority initiatives. This was the final year for the implementation of our strategic plan. It was developed in 2017, and it included 8 priority initiative goals. We completed 75% of all of our priority initiatives, including 3 that were 100% completed, 4 that were completed from 55 to 86%, and 1 that was only about 17% completed. The 3 completed initiatives including rebuilding East 9th Street, identifying barriers to high speed and developing a right-of-way policy, and developing a long-term financial planning strategy that include a 5-year financial forecast for our budget decisions and a 5-year capital improvement plan. Priority initiatives partially completed include reorganization of our advisory boards, completion of our downtown, completing our downtown master plan and our master facility plan, and implementation of professional development policies and priority-based budgeting. Except for our facilities master plan, all priority initiatives were completely done or are very near completion. Item number 4 was that my goal was to get Plan 2040 passed this year. This is our comprehensive plan whose purpose is to assure a strong and healthy Lawrence for future generations. This document represents community conversations and input that lasted over 6 years, and it sets out a community-wide vision that articulates our values today and those that we want to preserve and develop as our community evolves. At the very heart of this document is our desire to have safe, livable, and walkable neighborhoods, a vibrant economy that meets our material and social needs, in a healthy environment that recognizes our challenges due to climate change and provides opportunity to reduce our contributions to greenhouse gases. This document provides a framework and foundation for guiding our future growth. And as stated in the plan, this plan is intentionally flexible to accommodate future development ideas and innovations that would help achieve our community vision. Not without controversy, this document was passed with a majority commission vote on October 1st, 2019. The primary point of discussion was the annexation policy that requires the addition of a community benefit. This growth policy will be the first item that the Planning Commission will take up as the plan is further defined and policies and regulations are developed to increase the understanding and predictability of this requirement. Our fifth goal was to develop positive local government partnerships. Our goal was to begin the process of reviewing our interlocal government agreements and develop positive relationships with our county leaders. To date, we have compiled a list of agreements that will need to be reviewed with our county leaders. Through our city manager and our staff, we have begun the process of reviewing some of these agreements. In addition, some of our city commissioners have been meeting regularly with county commissioners one-on-one to strengthen our relationships and to discuss local needs and common goals. And the sixth item was to complete the downtown master plan. Our downtown master plan is about 63% complete. Public input has been solicited and received through listening sessions and workshops. The main items that remain to be completed include market and demographic analysis and creation of visioning goals and objectives. Once these are complete, a draft report will be submitted for public feedback. So these are the 6 main goals that I discussed back in January, and I'm happy with how far we've come along with many of them. So there are obviously many other accomplishments in 2019, including the following. In February of 2019, we received a $480,000 grant from the Kansas Department of Transportation to complete 2 sections of the Lawrence Loop. We dedicated and opened the newly remodeled Santa Fe Railroad Station. We moved Municipal Court and the Planning Department to the newly remodeled City Hall Annex at Riverfront Mall. In May of 2019, we published our 2018 Economic Development Report. We kicked off our downtown master plan process, completed the designs for bike boulevards on 13th and 21st Streets. We received a merit award from the Kansas Preservation Alliance on the rehabilitation of the Santa Fe Depot. In city staff, most importantly, city staff assisted our county partner in the emergency and cleanup operations that were necessary from the aftermath of the EF4 tornado that hit the unincorporated part of our county on May 28, 2019, just south of Lawrence. Although there was significant property damage from the tornado, thankfully there was no loss of life. In June 2019, we announced the hiring of our new Fire Chief, Sean Coffey. We began accepting online payments for parking citations and began the process of community engagement for the East 23rd Street multimodal corridor plan. In July of 2019, our new city manager, Craig Owens, started work in the middle of a very contentious budget negotiations. And I see over there that he did not leave because of that, so that was good. In August 2019, we passed the 2020 budget that included funding for our core services, social service programs, and an update of our climate protection plan. We also broke ground for the new Lawrence Police Headquarters. We won an award for the best tasting water in Kansas. And several of our employees won awards for environmental and municipal excellence. That was great. In September 2019, U.S. Engineering Metalworks announced it would open a facility in VenturePark that will result in a $15 million investment for the construction of a new building in our community. They'll be hiring 80 new employees with high-paying wages with a plan to expand to 140 by 2026. These are largely union positions that will be hired from our local unions. This type of economic development will help in providing high-paying primary jobs, provide an influx of millions into our local economy, and help recover some of the $10 million cost of the infrastructure at VenturePark that is currently being paid by Lawrence taxpayers. In November 2019, we completed 19th Street from Osdale to Iowa and completed the 19th Street tunnel that crosses beneath Iowa. This will allow bicyclists and pedestrians easy access from east to West Lawrence. In 2019, we also saw the celebration of our 30-year relationship with our sister city, Eutin, Germany, and our 29th year as our sister city to Hiroshima, Japan. In 2019, we had significant costs due to severe winter, spring, and summer weather. As we all know, climate change is real, and we are feeling it in many ways, including the increase in costs to address the effects of this. In 2019, get this, we filled 23,527 potholes from January to September of 2019. That's an average of about 121 potholes per day. And we also responded to 11 snow events from November through March of 2019. During that time, we used 8,433 tons of salt to keep our roads safe at a cost of almost $400,000. This was many more snow events than previous years. So these costs do add up. So the completion of these many projects show the success and growth of our community, that there is much to celebrate and much to be thankful for. The state of the city is sound, but not without challenges. We have significant needs that have gone unmet in our core services. Our infrastructure has many strengths, but also many unmet needs for maintenance. We have just begun to understand the depths of these needs. It is my belief that 2020 will bring a clearer picture of these needs, and with that, the beginnings of a strong plan and a vision to address them. In closing, I would like to look back on some of my comments from January 2019 when I spoke about our sense of community, the need to understand and accept that each of us is a critical link in the social web that makes up Lawrence, Kansas, that we collectively must strive for the well-being of all. We must continue to believe this. We must continue to believe in the success of our community and continue to develop policies that creates equity across all our cultural, economic, and social diversity. We must embrace and celebrate our differences to continue to thrive in this ever so complex economic and environmentally fragile world. So why do we do this? I think we all know the answer to this. It's because we are Lawrence, Kansas. This is who we are, and it's the right thing to do. Thanks for your support this past year, and I'm looking forward to 2020 with much anticipation and hope. Thank you very much.
Now it's my turn. Okay, because I value your time and because I was an English major, I'm going to summarize here in an introduction what I'm going to tell you so that you can choose when best to focus in and out of my statements to fit your interests and attention span. First, I will say several thank yous and acknowledge many people in the room. This is a good time to pay attention because in case I say your name and Kurt puts you on camera for our 10 YouTube viewers, you don't want to be caught off guard. Following that, there are a few things that the Commission will have before it this year that I've identified as pivotal to our work. The first is playing well with others. The second is addressing the cans that have been kicked down the road. And the third is map making. Now that I have undoubtedly piqued your interest, I'll begin. We live in an inspiring and inspired city, one filled with driven people who want Lawrence to thrive. We can see that reflected in the people in the room tonight. I'm thankful to those who are here this evening, including city staff, representatives, friends, and mentors, and most of all, my children, who have been the most ardent supporters throughout my candidacy and my time on the Commission. They are a large part of the reason that I do this, because they are the future that the legacy we leave behind will impact. I would be remiss without also thanking our regular meeting attendees, showing a commitment above and beyond 99,995 of the other residents in this community. I think it's important to acknowledge that while most people care what the City Commission is doing, when what we're doing directly impacts them, particularly fiscally, these individuals are here regardless of the topic, and they care deeply about our community. I'm also thankful for my other commissioners. Lisa, of course, is a tough act to follow. I appreciate her ability to consider all sides of a coin before making a decision. I also appreciate her patience with my willfulness and her commitment to attend more meetings than any other commissioner ever. During my time on the commission, Stuart has shown me humility. I've seen the effort firsthand that he's put into maintaining calm in a sea of emotions. I also appreciate the expertise that he brings to the table on fiscal matters as well. I'm very excited to welcome our two new commissioners, Courtney and Brad, who will bring very different perspectives and experiences to the table. And I'm personally delighted that both of them have expressed an interest in engaging in more direct dialogue amongst commissioners during meetings. I'm very much looking forward to working with them over the next year to form what every 2 years is a new commission. Commissioner dialogue is vital, and it's responsible decision-making. It's important to me that all of us engage in open conversation through diverse opinions and experiences, and sometimes through disagreement. That's how good policy is made. I'm excited to have the privilege to lead this group in the coming year as mayor. I'm excited to have access to the expertise at this dais and in this room through our staff and our residents to make decisions that will impact our city for decades. As single commissioners, we are powerless. As a group, we are able to provide real policy decisions that will have a positive impact on the day-to-day lives of all of our residents. I'm confident that we can work together to show our residents and our community how local government does not operate out of the fear and anger that is used to fuel national politics, but out of the very real fact that we live in and raise families in this community. We are all neighbors. It is a privilege to get to work with all of you up here and in our community. I also want to thank our new city manager, Craig Owens, who's shown nothing short of genuine enthusiasm for continuing to build Lawrence's legacy. I appreciate his energy, his expertise, and his patience with me and with our community as he begins what is certainly going to be a long career with our city. I would be remiss if I didn't also thank Diane, Brandon, and Casey for steering the ship while Craig was getting his sea legs. You did an amazing job, and I'm very thankful for all of you. All three of these individuals in particular, but all of our city staff has worked hard over the past year to clear out the old and sometimes overlooked practices that have served as a hindrance to our city being a beacon that we claim it to be in this state. Today, I have the privilege of being part, again, of an historical moment in Lawrence history. 2 years ago, I was elected to the first female majority city commission in Lawrence, Kansas. Today, I have the honor of being part of the first time 2 female mayors have served in succession in Lawrence. Not only do I have this honor, but I have the honor of noting that not only are there 2 female-identified mayors in a row for the first time in Lawrence's history, but we are also the first 2 openly non-heterosexual mayors in Lawrence in a row as well. I am thankful to this community for making this a possibility and for their trust in this commission to represent the city. I look forward to continuing to increase diverse representation on the commission in the future. For now, I am privileged to be a queer, feminist, intersectional, anti-racist woman who will do my best and continue to learn to embrace the power that I have been given and is now mine to use to lift others up as well. I will not be perfect. I am human and I am flawed, but I will always strive to do better. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Buckminster Fuller. This quote has been a beacon for me since I was a young activist. It changed the way I approach issues and the way that I make decisions. Lawrence has ridden on the coattails of our progressive history for decades, but the risk associated with being the best is complacency. We have remained a terrific place to live, to grow, to raise a family, but we have fallen behind on serious obligations that we are tasked with fulfilling. There are areas in which we have allowed complacency to settle. For the past few years, the city has taken on the difficult task of cleaning up our processes and identifying and being transparent about the things that have not gone well or been neglected. We began digging into existing relationships to address agreements that have over time become status quo without reevaluation. Given our broad public health discussions, new administrators at the city and the county levels, and a willingness to come to the table, I am certain that we can shift the tone and the intent of our conversations with our community partners in the county and other arenas to ask where our goals align and how do we most efficiently and responsibly use our taxpayers' dollars to create a future that meets the needs of our growing community. One area in which serious neglect has been identified is our city's infrastructure. We have been unwilling to make the smaller investments over time that would allow us to successfully maintain existing roads, sewers, and other infrastructure. I understand why. It isn't sexy. It's largely invisible, and it's costly. However, I would rather own one pair of shoes that may cost more but can be mended and will last for years than a poor quality pair that has to be entirely replaced regularly. In the next year, I think that we are going to have to acknowledge that our infrastructure is the equivalent of someone wearing worn-out shoes that have not been repaired appropriately, in some instances, for decades. We have to create a plan that addresses this, despite the fact that it will be costly, time-consuming, and likely won't win us many friends. We cannot continue with the existing model, so let's build a new one that will cost considerably less in the future so that we can seriously invest in the other issues that we as a city prioritize. I'm asking the commission, staff, and our residents to be bold and brave and prioritize the needs before the wants over the next several years as we move our infrastructure toward a sustainable state. I'm also very much looking forward to the strategic planning process. A few years ago, the city created its first strategic plan. It was and remains a good first step, and it provided some focus for commissioners and staff as we engaged in our work. I was not a commissioner when this plan was created, nor were our two new commissioners. This year, there are some changes to the strategic plan that I hope to bring to the table. It is essential to create a plan that includes commissioners, staff, our community partners, and our residents' input. We have committed to engaging residents in the creation of this plan through multiple means. It requires us as a city to reach out, and it also requires our residents to reach in and engage in this important process. The priority issues that we identify should be adaptive issues to which we can apply technical objectives that will change with the commission from year to year. I would also encourage the community and commission to consider a larger lens through which we make the decisions we do. I strive to make decisions through what in the business world is called the triple bottom line, in which I identified as a candidate as sustainability, sustainability, sustainability. This includes human sustainability, embracing all residents in our community, and a new model that uses a public health lens to describe community safety and what that means. The second is environmental sustainability. We no longer have a choice but to consider the impact that each decision we are asked to make has on the future of our environment. The third is economic sustainability. That means budgeting responsibly and remaining focused on the priority areas that we and the community identify in our strategic plan. It also means laying a fertile bed in which economic development can occur. If we are successful, then we create a roadmap for our city for the next 2 to 5 years. It will guide every decision we make on the dais in the coming year, including our budget decisions and our agenda items. It will also put us in a position to know what we expect from ourselves, our community partners, and a record that will reflect transparently what our residents and community partners can expect from us as a city entity. For someone who is not overly sentimental, this is an exciting prospect. The thought of being so bold and transparent about our what and our why as a city. For others, it may be uncomfortable as we continue to practice priority-based budgeting and consistently draw back to that focus when we find ourselves falling down a rabbit hole. However, it is important, it is the right thing to do, and it is up to the commission to lead our community by example. We do live in the best city in this state, I'd argue the nation, and we have been so far ahead of the curve that we've been able to take the slow road for some time. Now is the time to be bold and open and intentional, to dig beneath the surface, literally and figuratively, tend to the roots, the foundation for the decisions that we make. When we do that, we create a sturdy foundation with buy-in and energy, we are truly setting this city on a path to provide a safe, economically responsible, and sustainable future for all the residents of our city. Thank you. So now we get to eat cookies and drink punch for approximately 20 minutes. So we will recess for 20 minutes and then reconvene for the remainder of the meeting. Correct? No, oh, sorry, cancel that. I'm off to a good start. We will receive comments from our new city commissioners. I apologize, new city commissioners, if you would like to make comments.
I'm the only thing between you and the punch, I guess. See, they haven't even turned this on.
I think it's on.
Is it on? There's no light. Okay, that's good. We have to fix that light. Can we put that on the list? No, just kidding. No, since we have us in the punch here, I just want to say a couple thank yous. First, I want to thank my wife, Amy, for allowing me to do this. I've been involved in the city and doing different things in the community for a while, and I've thought about running for city commission for a long time, and I'm glad she finally let me do it. So I appreciate that. I'd like to thank my daughter Reagan. She is in Peru on the Rotary International Exchange, so she'll be watching this on TV, but she's excited for me, and we certainly miss her. And my daughter Cheney can also not be here. She's a cheerleader at Free State and raised the Roofers tonight, and so she is cheering at Free State tonight. So it's a big night, but at least Amy was able to come along. So I'd like to thank a lot of my supporters, people I've worked with throughout the years. Family Promise, Dana is here, and I appreciate all the work you've done, and Brian on the board. The Chamber, I was proud to be a member of the Chamber for a long time, and Bonnie, I look forward to working with you and Hugh, all the folks at Ballard, Becky Price, and others, and the folks at my law firm for also allowing me to do this. Being a partner in a law firm, and we kind of share our proceeds, and so for them to give me the time to be able to dedicate to the community, I certainly thank them for all the support they're giving me. And lastly, I do want to thank Ken Easthouse, Rob Sands, and Joey Hensler for their part in the campaign. Certainly, I think, as Leslie said, putting ourselves out there to run is a very important part of the process, and I want to thank them for running. And I wish the outcome is what the outcome is, but I certainly appreciate their activity and all the work they put into it. And I look forward to working with all of you. It'll be a good time. Thanks.
Many of you know this was a mom's night out that got way out of control. But yeah, of course, I want to thank everyone who supported me. So many people, I can't list them. And I don't want to talk too long because I don't want to cry here. But I'm very, very grateful for this opportunity to give something back to the town that I love.
All right, we're going to...
I just want to say welcome to Courtney and Brad, and good luck. Look forward to your leadership in the next year, and thank you for your leadership over the past year. It's been great.
All right.
Do you have anything to say? Okay, now we'll try that again. We'll break for approximately 20 minutes. I think that a photo is going to be taken with the commissioner, so if we can go around front. All right, we are back in session. I would like to remind our new commissioners and our standing commissioners that we need to speak directly into the mic. Sometimes folks have trouble hearing, so you might feel like you're eating them, but it aids in hearing. So our seventh item on the agenda is to consider conducting a public hearing for a vacation request submitted by Grob Engineering Services LLC for Indianaville LLC to vacate the southern 10 feet of the 12th Street right-of-way directly adjacent to the northern property boundary of Lot 97 on Delaware Street, Earl's Edition, and fractional Lot 97 Delaware Street. Do we have any staff speaking to this, or do we just open the public hearing?
See where we're at. We have to have reports.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Congratulations on this evening. My name is Chris Rice. I'm a project engineer with the city's Municipal Services and Operations Department, and I'll be presenting the right-of-way vacation request before you today. The vacation request concerns the southwest corner of 12th and Delaware Streets. Presently, along 12th Street, there's a 100-foot right-of-way, and that was dictated by the original township plat. The city's Transportation 2040 document denotes 12th Street in this area as a local street, and under current subdivision regulations, that street would only require a right-of-way width of 60 feet. And so the vacation before you today is to vacate the southernmost 10 feet of 12th Street right-of-way adjacent to the property at 1201 Delaware Street. As part of the application, city staff has reached out to utility operators within the city and notified them of the proposed vacation and solicited comments from them. To date, we haven't received any comments in opposition of the proposed vacation, nor do we anticipate there to be any utilities within that right-of-way to be vacated. Additionally, we reached out to the property owners within 200 feet of the subject property, notifying them of this hearing today as well as the proposed vacation. And to date, we haven't received any opposition from those entities either. The vacation before you today follows precedents from similar vacations. Just last year at 1201 Connecticut Street, 15 feet of 12th Street right-of-way was vacated as part of a project there. And just across the street at 1200 Delaware, 10 feet was vacated as part of the Delaware Commons redevelopment several years ago. So given all of the city staff is supportive of the vacation, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions?
I don't have any questions for staff.
Okay. At this time, we would open the public hearing.
Move to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bully, second by Commissioner Larson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public hearing is open.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bully, second by Commissioner Shipley. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. We have closed the public hearing. We'll bring it back up to the commission.
I don't have any problem with this at all. I'm fine.
Nope, makes sense.
We'll consider a motion.
I move we approve the order of vacation to vacate the southern 10 feet of the 12th Street right-of-way directly adjacent to the northern property boundary of Lot 97 on Delaware Street, Earl's Edition, and fractional Lot 97 Delaware Street in the city of Lawrence, Douglas County, containing 0.027 acres more or less.
Got a second.
Motion by Commissioner Bully, second by Commissioner Larson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 8 is consider changes to the Catalyst program to allow participation of industrial expansion projects on Lawrence VenturePark land or privately owned property zoned IG within the Lawrence community.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Britt Krumkino. I'm the city's Economic Development Coordinator slash Administrator. And tonight, staff is recommending some changes to the Catalyst program, which I actually consider more of a clarification to the program. And since we have some new commissioners, what I thought I'd do is kind of briefly recap what the Catalyst program is, and then we'll talk about staff's suggested changes. And I thought maybe the representative from Standard Beverage would be here to talk about.
They are.
Oh, very good. Excellent. Good. Because after my presentation, I'd like to turn it over to them so they can talk a little bit about their potential project. So to begin with, the Catalyst program is a temporary program. We started it back in 2017. It was meant to stimulate industrial development in the community, specifically within Lawrence VenturePark and East Hills Business Park. At that time, we had hardly any industrial space, so this program was, first of all, our first proactive program to see if we could spur industrial development. It is streamlined. It is something that is proactive in the sense that if the company and the project meets certain eligibility requirements, it comes directly to the City Commission for consideration in terms of participating in the program. So I want to just briefly recap the history. It is a very new program. We started in April 2017, and at that point, it was just for projects, industrial projects that would go in Lawrence VenturePark or East Hills Business Park, which are the two city-county business parks. At the time that it was, thank you. At the time that it was authorized, one of the commissioners also had concerns that we needed to open it up to IG or industrial zone property throughout the community, because otherwise it kind of put owners of that property at a disadvantage to not be able to participate in the program. So a couple months after that, we expanded the program to include new building projects in industrial zone land throughout the community, and not just the Venture Park or East Hills Business Park. In January of this year, the Commission authorized renewal of the program, so it'll sunset in April of 2022. At the time that it was renewed, we also added some minimum investment thresholds, just so we could keep the quality of construction at least a certain level. So how has it done? Well, I think in my opinion, and I think in all staff's opinion, the program has actually been very successful. We have projects that are approved for the Catalyst program that are going to add almost 867,000 square feet of industrial space. The capital investment in real estate is over $53 million. And the special assessments in Venture Park that the city has on their books that will now be covered by private developers is over $2.26 million. So what is the package? Well, basically, the package is a 10-year tax abatement. This thing kind of has a mind of its own. Either at 50% or 70%, depending on if the project is built to LEED Silver equivalency. It also, this just doesn't like me, an IRB sales tax exemption on construction materials. City or county-owned land in our two parks can be provided at no cost to help the development. The state also has a personal property tax exemption that applies. And then IRB and property tax abatement application fees and bond origination fees are waived by the city. So here are our current program requirements. In Venture Park, we allow a new building to participate if it's at least 75,000 square feet and investing at least $5 million. In East Hills, because most of East Hills is already mature and built out, expansion was more likely to occur at the time that this program was initially approved. So it has both a new building and a building expansion category. New building, a minimum size of 25,000, and building capital investment of 1.6 million, and for expansions, 15,000 square feet or a $1 million minimum capital investment. And then for IG zone land in Lawrence, it specifies a new building at a minimum building size of 25,000 or a 1.6 minimum capital investment. So what staff is actually recommending, and again, I say this as a clarification because to me, a new building is new construction, whether it's attached to an existing building or if it's detached. So I didn't even think about initially spelling out an expansion category for Lawrence VenturePark. Also, we hadn't any programs or any projects that had been approved, so I think expansion was not on the radar at that point. And I think also with IG zoned land within the city, kind of the same thing. We just, we started the program thinking that we would spur new industrial space, and I don't think there was a distinction discussed whether the building would be attached or detached. So we're recommending that these categories, the ones in green, be added so we clarify eligibility for this program. So in Venture Park, a building expansion of 25,000 square feet or 1.6 million in investment. IG zone land, the same thing, 25,000 minimum square feet addition, as well as, again, the minimum investment of 1.6 million. So at this point, I'll be happy to answer any questions before I turn it over to the Standard Beverage representative to talk about their potential project.
Any questions? I have one question. Can you discuss a little bit how you came about these new numbers for building expansion?
Building expansion, we tried, staff discussed this amongst ourselves, and we tried to align it as much as possible with what was originally there. So in terms of the IG zone land, again, I think it makes sense that whether it's a new building that's detached or a new building that's attached, the categories remain the same, the requirements remain the same. As far as Lawrence VenturePark, I think that just came about as, again, saying that in the same alignment as the rest of the expansion programs.
Commissioners, I would add that I think our intention was to enable a level playing field between what would be a new building under the current program, which is the 25,000 square foot threshold and the 1.6 million capital investment, with an expansion of the same size. Because one of our concerns was if a existing business wanted to participate in the program, they would have to build a new 25,000 square foot building, and if they had an existing building, it didn't seem to make any sense to us that they would have to have it disconnected, have to have a whole separate building for that. And so, so our thought is that this program, as recommended, these changes would enable a level playing field between maybe somebody coming in and being able to construct a new 25,000 square foot building versus enabling an existing company to basically make that same investment.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay, at this time, I'll go ahead and turn it over to the representative for Standard Beverage and let them go ahead and tell you a little bit about what they have in mind for a potential project.
Good evening. What an exciting night to be at the commission. Congratulations to you all. I'm Bethany Roberts. I'm an attorney with Barbara Emerson. I'm filling in for Matt Goff, who had a family emergency and couldn't be here tonight. Also with me, I have Ryan Thurlow, who is the Chief Operating Officer, and Angie Wilhelm, who is the Chief Financial Officer of Standard Beverage. Standard Beverage is asking the City Commission to adopt the staff's recommendations to allow the Catalyst program eligibility to the expansion projects in Lawrence VenturePark and IG zoned land in the city. For those of you who know me, know that this is vastly outside of my area that I normally practice in or my area of expertise. But I think that actually gives me a unique and valuable perspective in looking at this, because I came to it not knowing the ins and outs of the project or the background of the Catalyst program. And so it appears that the staff report is really based in fairness and in common sense. And that is why Standard Beverage is asking that you adopt those recommendations. You have our letter, you have the staff recommendations, and you've just heard from staff. I'm not going to rehash all of that, but there are a couple of things I'd like to highlight. Standard Beverage is still in the very early stage of design and development. Standard Beverage knows that they will need to submit a formal application for the Catalyst program. When meeting with staff, it came up that this clarification needed to be had, and so it is at staff's recommendation that Standard Beverage reached out to the county commissioners to try and clarify this concern to ensure whether or not the new program would be covered. Standard Beverage has a lot adjacent to where their current building is that's under contract. They would like to build a new building that would connect to its existing building on that lot. This would be new construction, not a renovation or just an expansion of their existing building. Under the current policy, if read narrowly and without sort of the recommendations that are put forth, if Standard Beverage did not connect the buildings and obviously met the other requirements, then they could take advantage of the Catalyst program. The fact that they want their employees to have unity between buildings and have continuity of the two buildings should not mean that they are precluded from the Catalyst program eligibility. That violates common sense. Likewise, just because Standard Beverage is located in Lawrence VenturePark and not in the East Hills Business Park does not mean that that should preclude the Catalyst program eligibility. Standard Beverage is joining in staff in the recommendations and urges the Commission to adopt the common sense and fairness approach to the Catalyst program and expand this program as proposed in the recommendations. Thank you for consideration of our proposal, and we will stand for any questions you might have about our project or Standard Beverage in specifics.
Any questions for Bethany or Standard Beverage?
I don't have any, no.
Okay, thanks, Bethany. So this time we will open it for public comment.
My name is Ken Easthouse. I'm here as a member of the Public Incentives Committee. The only question I have, which is not on the traditional Catalyst forms that you submit, would be the number of jobs that are created and at what pay rate that those particular jobs would be at. I think that's an important factor when looking at any program to approve for the Catalyst program, and that is not on the form. So I just want to make sure that question is asked. Thank you.
Other public comment?
Hi, I'm Chris Flowers, and also a follow-up question I would like is, are the jobs created, are they being filled by Lawrence residents? I don't think we should be given tax breaks for someone just to come in and fill the positions with outside hires. Thank you.
Dan Dannenberg, 2702 University Drive. Belated thanks to former Commissioner Herbert for his comments, I guess. Umpires at KU baseball games, the home plate umpires, occasionally need constructive guidance on the strike zone. Catalyst or cataclysmic, I think these companies need to be thoroughly vetted, and we need to know that the city is getting a good value for their buck. I think these companies that receive these benefits should have some responsibility to community service. That being, they could contribute to the community shelter, maybe have a drive for supplies there. They could have a drive for the food pantry. Maybe they could pick up trash in the parks and along streets, and one instance I saw just walking down here that Massachusetts sidewalk on the west side was absolutely full of leaves. And perhaps one of these companies that's receiving these benefits could spare a employee or two to go out there and help the city remove the leaves and clean up the place a little bit. We're in a race, a real race with other municipalities to attract businesses. It's a real dogfight. We all know that. And I don't know what the real answer is. I wonder if this catalyst program means that we no longer need the Public Incentives Review Commission. I think we need to have a long, hard look at that to see if we still need that. Because we're going to basically enter new territory here, and we're playing in real hardball now. So I think that deserves some consideration.
Any other public comment?
Steve Kelly, 4529 Broadmoor Drive, and I'm speaking this evening on behalf of the Chamber and the Douglas Lawrence EDC. I'm supportive of this project, and I'm also supportive of the suggested changes by staff. I think as the representative for Standard Beverage spoke to the issue, it's just, to me, a matter of equity and kind of fair treatment of projects or properties throughout the community. And I think the other one is a common sense issue. The fact that by building a separate building, or, you know, and there could be, I guess, arguments to be made that you could kind of fake it by putting another wall there and just having a separate building makes no sense from a business standpoint. So to me, it's about equity and it's about common sense. And I do think, and this is kind of in response to Dan's comment about the community service aspect, I can't quote, you know, the exact amount of public service and involvement that Standard Beverage has in the community, but I know they're involved. I know that personally. So I think, you know, most of the companies in this community, the employers, are very civic-minded and have been involved in a large number of ways. And I think Standard Beverage is another one of those representatives of that broader business community. And so I would urge you to take favorable action on this request to modify the current rules, or clarify the rules, I think would be more appropriate, as Britt had said, as suggested by the city staff. Thank you.
Okay, we will bring it back up to the commission. Thoughts or questions?
I just, yeah, I'm very supportive of the Catalyst program. And I think if there was any concern about the Catalyst program, it would be when you have a new business coming in that you don't know much about and you are banking on their word and their goodwill. I think when you're talking about an expansion, when you're talking about someone like Standard Beverage, who's been here a long time, has employees here, we know what we're getting when we ask to expand them. And if you look at the list of Grandstand and Plasticon, I mean, those sorts of expansions, those are where we're going to have a lot more success than always bringing in new businesses. So I think anything we can do to encourage our industrial partners, our industrial employers to expand, that's where we're going to get the most job growth, and it's job growth that we know are good jobs, and it's an industry and a company we're happy to have here. So I certainly support this clarification.
Yeah, I would agree that this is a clarification, because it just seems to me if you're building new, whether there's a wall or not a wall connecting the building, they're still building something new. So it seems to me more of a clarification. You know, I will point out that Standard Beverages has been in Lawrence for 30 years, I believe. and they have consistently grown and added onto their building and added employees. And I believe in their letter, or at least in the staff memo, that this project would add about 8 to 10 new full-time employees at their Lawrence facility. So it is adding jobs as well as economic development, and just the increase in our tax base, which is important. I've been very happy with how successful the Catalyst program has been. We have seen that some of the businesses like Grandstand, who has taken advantage of this, that they have exceeded their economic development commitments throughout the years, and is providing more jobs and more business. So, you know, I've been really pleased with it, so I'm very much in support of this.
I appreciate your interest in expanded conversation, but I don't have anything to add.
I think I would like to know maybe some answers to some of the public comment, which was about the pay rate and the number of jobs. And then I know that this has been discussed in the past by other commissioners, so I just don't know where you guys are at on it. I agree that this is a fine clarification. But the comment that was made and that I heard before, that Catalyst, however successful it has been, does kind of sidestep perk, and what does that mean? Did anybody want to go into that a little bit, or?
I do know, and staff can clarify this, about the Catalyst program does not require positions to be added, and that's just not part of the requirement. That's something that obviously can be discussed in the future, but that's not a requirement.
The Catalyst program, because we had such a lack of industrial space, and it is very, very tough to bring in new companies, or for companies to even expand without maybe wanting to relocate their expansion. The Catalyst was designed as a proactive program. It's actually the first proactive incentive program we've ever done. It was also meant to be nimble and streamlined to adjust to the market, because the market at the time really wanted things that were ready to go. And so the idea of going through a lot of process, which our traditional tax abatement program, which is still very much available, it does take a lot more time, and developers are just really, time is money. They're interested in ways to fast track. The other thing to, I think, keep in mind is that this program initially started because with like the Van Trust building that wanted to go forward, it was a spec building, and we didn't know who the tenants would be or the jobs that would be created. So the way this program is designed is, again, streamlined, proactive, meant to attract industrial development, and I think we all agree it has very successfully done that. So.
I add that with the applications that we have received, we generally do get an idea of how many jobs that the company is planning on adding. So we usually have that in the materials, even though it's not on the application. So I think that's an easy thing for us to add to the application. We could certainly add, what are the projected jobs that are anticipated, and also something about average wage in general. And again, most of the companies that are making the requests and have submitted applications, we've gotten that kind of information on, even though it's not a requirement of the program to hit certain annual targets. So we could certainly amend the application so that's clear.
And I would say, as it relates to PERC, certainly a lot of industrial programs go through this, but there would be other, if a residential property wanted to have a TIF or something like that, that would go through PERC, wouldn't it? There'd be other things non-industrial that would go through PERC.
Yes, correct. And PERC also has a role in reviewing the city's annual economic development report that's required by city code, as well as reviewing the budget requests related to economic development that are submitted by the partners and their requests to both the city and the county on economic development.
So I think there's still a role for them. Maybe not as much in the industrial, and that's what we're really trying to grow, and it certainly is less controversial. Good jobs, industrial base, and industrial park is usually less controversial. And so I still think there's a role for PERC, but maybe not necessarily in these areas.
This is also a temporary program that will sunset in 2022 if it's not continued, which would put it back into the hands of PERC.
But that's one thing I like about the program is that it's very narrowly applied to industrial properties only. And so the program obviously runs through this Catalyst program, but we have outside that anybody who wants to build on any commercial properties that are seeking any sort of an incentive would have to go through PERC, and which I think that's a very good process to follow, that PERC does need to be a part of that.
I guess one concern I have about adding the jobs and the salary information is that we need to communicate clearly what the requirements of the program are, and that those are not requirements of the program, because the public may not understand that distinction. So I think that's a communication issue for us as we go through this, should we choose to do that.
We could either note that on the application, or we could continue doing as we have, which is request that the applicants provide that information in a letter to us. And so again, generally, for these applications that we have brought, we have an idea of what kind of job creation is involved.
But I think there has been some confusion about what the program requirements are. And so I think it's very important that we be very clear about what the requirements are, and that this other information is supplemental but not a program requirement.
Is that something that we want to make a formal request of, that we request that information when we receive an application in some way? Or is that something that perhaps we can sit on and think about for a while?
Well, I think it's definitely information we want to have, so whether it's in a letter or on the application, I'm not sure. I mean, I'll leave that to staff on how they design that. But, I mean, I think it's always going to be a question.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Anything else? Yeah, I would consider a motion.
Okay, I'll authorize revision for Catalyst program eligibility requirements to accommodate participation of expansion projects in Lawrence VenturePark or throughout the community on privately owned IG zone property.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Larson, second by Vice Mayor Finkeldye. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. So we are skipping over our motion to recess into executive session and move on to commission items. And the first piece of that is any future agenda items to add by commissioners? Any work session items?
I have an item that I would like to discuss with this new commission, and that is I would like for us to consider bringing forward the Tobacco 21 law and having a discussion about that as to whether or not this commission would be interested in that. I would appreciate hearing about it. But I would like to see that come back to this commission and with possible a law or ordinance or whatever.
I'd like to see that as well, and one of the things I'm interested in is, as we look at our legislative statement, that we talk about including state legislation on Tobacco 21 in that legislative document.
Are any other commissioners interested?
I'm certainly interested in both those points.
Okay, do we need a motion?
Are you wanting to add this as a work session or as a regular agenda
Well,
item?
I was thinking as a regular agenda, item, but since we got two new commissioners who have not been part of the discussions, that may not be
We
forward.
talked about it in the campaign trail, I'll tell you that.
I understand, but still, they have not seen the full or heard the full, what we've heard
Sure,
from the
yeah.
various,
Yeah.
There was one study session, and then was it addressed at another meeting as well? Here at this body? Twice?
We talked about it in a commission item form. We did not vote on whether we'd add it as an agenda item, which I think is why it's coming back up.
So I think it would be an opportunity to again hear from staff on the legal aspect of it, as well as from those who are advocating for it, to hear more about what they've, new things that maybe they've come up with.
So would that be a regular agenda or work session?
What's the timetable on our legislative agenda, the statement to the legislature?
I think that's planning on being the next regular meeting. The 18th.
Yeah, I think adding it to the the legislative proposal is fine to go, I'm okay with doing that. Scheduling a work session obviously would be a future item.
I'm not okay with just adding it to the legislative agenda.
Okay.
So I would want to have more of a discussion about that.
Okay.
Well,
So
I
what
mean,
about other
we'll
commissioners?
talk about that as an agenda item next week, right?
As part of our
2 weeks?
legislative process.
18th.
2 weeks.
17th.
17th, yeah. So
2 weeks.
the legislative statement will be in a regular agenda item in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Are we wanting to add it to that agenda, or?
Well, I think it'd be a future agenda item. I mean, maybe at some point we'll talk more about it. I've never been a big fan of the work sessions. I'd rather get on an agenda and vote on it, and then have a work session and bring it back and vote on it again. But, you know, if we want to have a work session on it, I'm fine with that. But I would lean towards putting it on an agenda.
But would it come back as an ordinance, or would it come back as just approving or not approving staff to move forward with developing an ordinance? Any thoughts?
We can certainly have an ordinance drafted based on what other communities are doing. It could be on for just review, and we could take your direction at that point. I'd ask that we not put that action on December 17th one, because I think we'll need to reach out to the proponents and the people that have spoken on the topic before, make sure that, you know, the date works for them as well. So we can certainly have an ordinance ready for your consideration, if that's what you prefer, or we can just give you an update on the recent litigation that was resolved on this matter and give you an overview of how other communities are doing it. So it's totally, we're here to serve you.
Anyone do this?
It sounds like the preference for those who are interested in hearing about it would be to have it on a regular agenda then?
Okay.
Okay. Do we need a motion for that?
Typically, we do have a motion when you're adding an agenda item to a future session. That's why we decided to move it as commission items,
Right.
just so everyone's in agreement that it's something you want to have on.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to add tobacco 21 issue to a future agenda item.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Larson, second from Commissioner Bully. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. 4-1. Any other commission items?
Since you brought that up, I'm going to go ahead and bring up sidewalk policy. While I'm aware that it's part of a greater sort of infrastructure concern, and that will certainly come up when we talk strategic planning, I do know that people are going to start getting those letters, I think, in January. And if there is interest to pause that, which I, in an effort to find another solution, one that's more equitable, then I would want to move towards saving those people, particularly, the trouble of getting those notifications.
A comment on that?
I'm not interested in pausing the program.
I would say that I would prefer a both-and approach, that we continue to have this conversation, but also continue forward with what we're doing at this time. But I do think that there is continued conversation to have on this issue, and I believe that that will be, and has been requested to come back to us, particularly options as far as what that looks like for the city, particularly taking on those sidewalks that have been repaired was a request that I specifically made, but other options as well for the city.
I'm not interested in pausing the program at this time.
I'm certainly interested in talking about the program and continuing to improve it as we move forward. So I don't know if that looks like a work session or an agenda item or a report from staff on how it's going. I don't know. But I'm certainly open to discussing it.
I'm open to discuss it. I just don't want to stop what we're trying to do. We've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Hearing no motion.
We'll get some kind of time, though, when we will have that on an
Yes.
agenda.
Is there any conversation as to when that would be returning to the commission as far as the options or possibilities regarding the sidewalk policy?
Well, I guess just a brief status update. The staff is midway through the inspection process. They've been through the identified neighborhoods and marked and have inspection reports for, I believe, all of the properties at this point. So they are getting ready pursuant to the policy to mail out those notifications by the end of the year or beginning of January. And so that then starts the process of the property owners either choosing to perform their own repairs or working with the city to coordinate and schedule those repairs to be conducted by the city. The next time this would come back to the city commission as a touch point, I believe would be when we go out to bid for the repair contract. So at that point, that would kind of be well into the process.
What about the bigger policy question of whether or not it's feasible for the city to take on the responsibility for that infrastructure, what that cost looks like, what the actuality of that looks like, whether or not it's even legally possible to take that on after we've completed a section, all questions that have kind of been asked but not answered.
Yeah, we don't have a discussion like that scheduled at this point, but it's something that we can work on.
Yeah, I would say I'm interested in the space too. This is an issue that came in late on along with the budget. We're definitely going to be into this with our budget and CIP, a capital improvement planning process, before I think our next round would occur. So if this round's going forward, we're definitely going to have a lot of decision points on those bigger picture items through the budget process. So as a minimum, that'd be it. If we want to kind of circle something on the calendar where in a few months we come back with revisiting some of those bigger picture things, I'm open to that conversation. We haven't had those internally yet.
Okay.
At least with my participation.
Okay. Any other items?
Tomorrow at 10 o'clock at the Extension Service will be the first summer food service planning meeting for 2020. It'll be from 10 to 11:30. I plan to be there. Are you going to be there?
Yeah, I'll be there, yeah.
So,
that's when
I don't know if anybody else is going to be there. It's possible we should add to the calendar. Susan Farley, the extension agent who's working on this, has obtained a grant. It's a culture of health grant. And it's ironic that you're coughing as I say culture of health. I'm sorry. Hope you feel better soon. And I believe that Erica Dvorska with SS&C is going to be heading up this effort to kind of understand and document how the program works. And so we, as a city, are involved through Parks and Rec. And it's an important opportunity for the city and for the community because we can feed kids who need food. We can provide employment over the summer for people who'd otherwise be laid off. And federal funding pays for the nuts and bolts of the program. We pay for our Parks and Rec participation. But I see this as a significant opportunity, and I've been kind of working on this, trying to work on this for a couple of years. I think that with this Culture of Health grant, we have a really good opportunity to make some strides. There's a lot of room for improvement, a lot of room for growth. There are a lot of kids who ordinarily get their food at school during the school year who are not getting fed that well over the summertime. So I encourage staff and my fellow commissioners to be interested in this, and let's do the best we can for 2020 with the summer food service program. So I guess we can, I don't know if anybody else is going to be there, but we can add to the calendar, and that's all.
Yeah. I mean, the program has been pretty level or flat from last year to the last couple of years. The numbers are still pretty even.
We kind of dipped down there for a while, and then we're back up and
but it's
level,
flat,
I
yeah.
think.
So we'd like to see that go up because there's, just based on the numbers, the percentage of the kids who are on the free lunch program, we aren't seeing that percentage in the summer, and it'd be really nice to see that bump up. And the opportunity's there, the funding's there. We just got to figure out a way to market it so that we can get more kids at this program.
And, you know, there's a lot of partners in this. The school district, 497, essentially provides the workers and the food. Appleseed's there, Just Food's there, the Extension Service. I mean, there's all kinds of folks who are in this. Boys and Girls Club is a huge player here, too. So it's just such a great opportunity. I think we need to seize it.
Yeah, and the school board, GR is the one who has been really helpful in getting the numbers from the school district, because they are the ones that track really the numbers of lunches that they provide. So he's been a great help in that from the school board.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, city manager's report. Oh, no, we don't need public comment on that, do we? Thank you.
Good, okay. The one item I will, we added to the agenda, and I just want to, discovering all the policies we have, and we have an ethics policy that helps prevent nepotism and conflicts for some of our employees. And I really believe in the policy. It's an important one that we have. But there, with 850 employees, there's going to be some few exceptions that occasionally will make sense, that are in the best interest of all of us and of our intent as an employer, and in trying to achieve the goals we have of getting great talent and also having good ethical hires. And so we have one that's a potential conflict. It's one of the employees that we have in our Human Resources Department, not in a management role, but as a member of the Human Resources Department staff, and has a number of relatives that could come into play. So we've really identified this specific person and having some things that are forthcoming that could be conflicts, and we just don't think that this is the type of place that our policy was meant to apply to. And we would hate to prevent opportunities for others to improve themselves in our organization, and us to take advantage of promotional opportunities for some of the relatives that this person is necessarily attached to. So it's that the policy allows me to do this, but make sure that I make you aware that we're making an exception to it in an open public meeting, which is what we're doing. Happy to answer any questions.
I'm just a little confused. Is it a potential conflict in the future, or is it an actual conflict that you're curing now?
There's a pending process.
A pending okay.
Yes.
That's where my confusion was.
Yeah,
A
sorry, and I
pending
wasn't real
process.
clear on it.
Got it, okay. I'm with you. I'm with you now. Okay, thanks.
Other questions?
So will we be documenting these variances from this program so that we can be consistent going forward?
Yes, I mean, they're documented by the open record. I think that was the intent of my disclosure in the open public record. I don't expect that these will happen very often, but certainly we will make sure to record them in the Human Resources Department.
Okay. And this person is not being supervised by any of her relatives?
That's correct. Yeah, this is more or less an administrative role and position, but the policy looped in every single member of the Human Resources Department. This person particularly works with Parks and Recreation recruitments and positions primarily, and this is not a conflict because of that.
All right. Okay, sounds good.
Anything else?
Okay.
Open it to public comment. Okay, we will move on.
Well, if there's any other questions on anything else on there, the Downtown Master Plan Progress Report is in there. Happy to answer any questions on that. I know that was something that Commissioner Larson noted as Mayor Larson. So happy to answer any questions on that progress report.
Good.
I apologize, I thought you were completely finished.
Now I am.
Okay.
Building permits.
All right, well then we will move on to the calendar.
Okay.
Anything to add or address on there? Note that the Santa Rescue has been moved.
The Santa Rescue is Friday night at 5:50 or 6:15, I think it is, or sometime. showing up at 5:15, that's all I know. I really don't know what time it is.
So you're showing up on top of Weavers, or you going to show up on?
Well, you know, wherever they put me, I'm there. That's a little scary. Okay. So yeah, it's Friday evening.
Anything else? Okay.
Nothing else to add.
Oh, my agenda went back to the top.
Okay.
It's the stress of being mayor. Okay. So at this time, we will jump back up on our agenda, and in the motion to recess to executive session, we need to completely state the action there in the motion. I'm not going to say it and then have you all say it again, so whoever makes that motion needs to read that entire paragraph.
I move that we recess into executive session for approximately 30 minutes to discuss privileged legal communications with the city's attorneys regarding employment law pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2. The justification for the executive session is to keep attorney-client privilege matters confidential at this time. At the end of the executive session, the City Commission will resume its regular meeting in the City Commission room.
A second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Boley, second by Commissioner Larson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 30 minutes.
Okay, she's got it, okay.
Okay, I move that we recess into executive session for approximately 20 minutes to discuss privileged legal communications with the city's attorneys regarding employment law pursuant to KSA 754319B2. The justification for the executive session is to keep the attorney-client privilege matters confidential at this time. At the end of the executive session, the city commission will resume its regular meeting in the commission room. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by me and second by Commissioner Finkelday. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Okay, we are back and we have nothing to report at this time. At this moment, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Motion from Commissioner Larson, second from Vice Mayor Finkeldye. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned.